My buddies, Dan Drake and Janice Cottle, came up with an intimacy pyramid that they thought would be helpful in explaining what has to happen to create intimacy. And then Dan Drake and Joanne and Matthew Rapsmith altered a little bit. I kind of want to show you what the originals look like because these four professionals are brilliant. The intimacy pyramid has developed into the bottom layer, the foundation, if you will, to create intimacy, closeness, and connection is honesty, which creates more safety, which builds more trust. And when trust has occurred, there's generally more vulnerability. And again, additional intimacy or connection. Right? So this is what it looks like from the perspective of what does a healthy connection look like? Well, I looked at that and I looked at Urkham and I said, hey guys, you forgot something really important. Now, I don't know if you can guess what they forgot, but what I know they forgot was the all-important empathy. So I came up with my own empathy pyramid, but it's still a pyramid to establish intimacy. And it looks like this. And what I really believe is in the intimacy pyramid that I created, it starts with both honesty and truth. And they're very, very different. Honesty is, of course, being 100% authentic about your behaviors, your feelings, and your thoughts. And truth is having the courage to be honest, even if it's going to cause conflict. And then I believe that empathy is so very important that this work can't be accomplished unless the betrayer can put the partner and the partner's perspective into the open heart and see things through the partner's eyes. Well, that creates safety and builds trust and increases vulnerability, which then creates connection. And when you have connection and you have all those other values lining up, it creates intimacy, which intimacy is really a closeness. Intimacy is not necessarily sexual, but it's a closeness that a couple feels to know that they're working on things. So that was my pyramid. Now, when I gave this to my Help or Heal group, that's a group that I have for men who struggle with sexual compulsivity behavioral problems. One of the men said, oh, my pyramid wouldn't be complete without consistency, because consistency is something my wife always asks for. It's absolutely imperative in the process of trust building. And I thought, touche, that's great. I didn't even think of consistency. And then another group later, one of the men said, I don't see faith in there. In both the one pyramid you showed us and in yours, there's nothing about spirituality, God, faith. And I said, oh, yes, we need another rung of the ladder of the intimacy pyramid to include faith. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to create your intimacy pyramid. And I don't want you to have to feel like it has to be anything fancy. The truth is you can just draw a triangle. And I did one on the internet to look like a normal pyramid with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rungs. As you come up with your values and your words, you may need 10 or 12. You may need 4 or 5. There's no right or wrong answer. But I will give you 5 minutes, and then what I'd like you to do is to write down the most important things that you believe your marriage needs to rebuild or build for the first time trust and intimacy, because you deserve connection.